ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, Death by Southwest listeners. Welcome back to Death by Southwest. I am your host, Margot, and it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Trying to lower my desk chair. We're going to jump right into our story today. I did want to say a happy belated Mother's Day to any of our listeners who are mothers out there, and animal mothers, fur mothers. I hate that saying, but pet parents. How about let's go with that? Pet parents. So happy Mother's Day to any mothers of humans and mothers of pets out there. Hope everyone had a beautiful Mother's Day and that your week is off to a good start. Last week, I had true crime headlines and I had a job interview on Thursday. So that's usually when I think I've only done it once, so I can't really say usually, but that's when I've been planning on recording the true crime headlines, and I didn't get to it. So I'm going to 100% do it this week. I apologize for that. I had every intention of getting to it, but job interview, which I don't know. I haven't heard back about, so we'll see. Moving right along, we are going to jump into our story today. She was 18 years old, full of conviction, compassion, and the kind of unshakable determination that only comes from someone who's seen heartbreak too soon. Jennifer Pentilla had a dream to bike across Mexico, volunteering with churches, spreading kindness, and helping communities in need. She wasn't naive, she wasn't reckless, but she was alone. And just 3 weeks into her solo journey, she vanished. This is the unforgettable story of a daughter, a journal, a trail of scattered belongings, and a chilling mystery that's haunted the New Mexico desert for more than 3 decades. Welcome to Death by Southwest. So today's story is really, really unsettling. These missing persons stories really get to me. This was not a high-profile murder. There were no real front-page headlines. Honestly, there's very little information on this case. A couple of articles, a couple of news stories, and I found two other podcasts that have covered it. So it's definitely a case that kind of quietly slipped through the cracks, which is scary. So let's go back to where this story began. Born April 4th, 1973 in Butte, Montana, Jennifer Lynn Pentilla was intense in the best way possible. She was quick to learn, eager to help, and always seeming to observe the world around her. Her mother, Lynn, described her as a go-getter right from the start. She was sitting up at 3 months, crawling by 4, walking by 8. She was the type of girl and eventually woman who did not wait for permission to explore the world around her. She loved reading National Geographic magazines, loved Nancy Drew, and could memorize maps and statistics like it was second nature. She was very smart. She taught herself Spanish. She wrote poetry about angels and cherubs, and she refused Christmas presents in favor of asking people to donate to those in need. This kind of very selfless person, this was not a phase. It's just her being selfless. This is who she was. And by the time she was 16, she had already traveled to Sierra Leone in West Africa to do some humanitarian work where she helped till land and clear brush. After her junior year of high school, she went to Mexico where she worked with churches on plumbing and construction projects, which is amazing. I can't imagine 16 years old and going by yourself to like work with some group doing humanitarian work in West Africa. Guts. She was gutsy for sure. By the fall of her senior year, unfortunately, tragedy struck for Jennifer and her family. Her father, Army veteran Nick Pentilla, died of leukemia at just 44 years old. And this unsurprisingly changed Jennifer. The way that it changed her, though, was a little surprising. It didn't change her in the way that grief can often harden people, but it changed her in the way that grief can deepen people. She didn't spiral. She instead found strength in her faith, and she had a real desire to make meaning out of the pain that she felt. So after graduation, instead of going straight to college, she had a new plan, a plan that was rooted in purpose. And this is how her next big journey began. So that summer volunteer trip, as I said, it really transformed her. And so when she came back, she told her mom that she thought she had really found her calling, that she wanted to help underserved communities around the world. Now, she had originally been planning to attend Concordia College in Minnesota with her best friend, Michelle. And she had been really excited about this plan. But after the Mexico trip, and then also losing her father, she decided she wanted to do something different. She changed her mind and made a new, bold plan. She was going to ride her bike through Mexico, volunteering in churches along the way throughout her travels. Her mom and her stepdad, so after, I know that seems quick, and it was a little quick, but after her father passed away, her mom, Lynn, had reconnected with someone that she knew from high school, this guy, Jim Harris. They got together. They relocated from where they were living in Great Falls, Montana, to just about 3 hours away in Missoula, Montana. So her mom and her stepdad were understandably worried. You know, they didn't want their daughter traveling on bicycle through Mexico by herself. And when I was researching this and reading about this, I was thinking, well, yeah, that is scary, but like that feels even less scary to someone like me because I live an hour from Mexico. So I could like easily ride my bike to Mexico. Let's not say easily, but I could ride my bike to Mexico much more easily than someone who's living in Montana. That's, just such a far distance. Even if she's not going to ride to Mexico, riding your bike through Mexico also, just seems a little dangerous. So her mom and her stepdad were worried, but Jennifer was dead set on this plan. So her mom helped her prepare. Jennifer was packing light. She had a white Fuji mountain bike with green lettering that she had received as a graduation gift. She had a JanSport backpack where she packed in camping gear, like a tent and a sleeping pad. She had a Bible in English and a Bible in Spanish, a journal, a portable water filtration system, camera, Walkman, maps, traveler's guide to Mexico, and a book from her mother titled To My Daughter with Love on the Important Things in Life. She also had $450 in cash, which I believe today is around, I did look this up and now I wish I had written it down, either $1,000 or $3,000. I can't remember. Either way, it's still not a ton of money because she was planning for her trip to be like a couple months. So a couple months traveling through Mexico, well, it depends if you're staying in hostels or churches, places like that cost little to no money. Maybe this would have been enough. but she seemed to think it was enough, and her parents did too. So on October 1st, 1991, sorry guys, I should have told you earlier what year our story took place, 1991. She flew to San Diego to begin her journey with her bike and all of her belongings. Now, she had originally planned to go with a group of missionaries, but somehow, and it's not really clear, the plans fell through. So now she's doing this alone. From San Diego, Jennifer biked south to Tecate, Mexico, which is a border town. When she was there, she ran into a fellow missionary that she had previously volunteered with and knew, named Bob, which I don't know why that seems weird to me, but fine, Bob. And Jennifer shared her plan with Bob, what she was planning to do. She told him she was going to head south to Hermosillo, which that's a city in Sonora, the Mexican state Sonora. It's about 571 miles from where she was in Tecate by bicycle. So she's planning to go about 570 miles south. And then she told Bob after she is in Hermosillo, she's going to head to Guadalajara, which is in Jalisco, Mexico, about 1,200 miles from Hermosillo. So this is a lot of miles she's planning to cover here. And Bob looked at her plan and said, "No, don't do this alone. Certainly not. Don't do this, but certainly don't do this alone." And he warned her about kind of the terrain. This route that she had planned, would take her way through Mexico. So she's going through desert, she's going through rainforest, she's going through mountains, rocky terrain. So the terrain in and of itself was posed like a pretty big danger, I guess, to her doing this alone. She's not taking an ATV, she's on a bicycle. Also, the heat. It may be October, but it's warm in Mexico. And then also just being a woman alone, I want to say biking anywhere a long distance alone as a female is frightening, unfortunately. And certainly through another country that you are not super familiar with, like Mexico. And even though she was really dead set on this plan, something in Bob's voice, like something about what he was saying to her, it kind of struck a chord with her. And she was like, fine. Okay, I'm going to listen to Bob. It was a gut feeling she had. So she decided to make a change. She decided to head back towards the United States, cross back into California. And when she got into California, she camped in a place called Potrero. And remember I said she took journals, so she was a big journaler. So she started journaling about her revised plan. And she says in her journal, quote, "Tonight is my first night camping out by myself. I'm in a very small town called Potrero in Southern California. I've decided to go a different route than I had originally planned. Instead of going across the border and through the desert on the Mexican side, I'm going on the American side. Bob and I discussed it a lot, and he really thought it would be better for me. Since I've made the decision, I really feel a lot more at peace." But as we know in these stories, that feeling of peace was likely not going to last long. On October 7th, Jennifer was headed to Campo, California, about 10 miles from where she'd camped in Potrero the night before, and she got a flat tire. So she got it repaired and then got back on her scheduled route. But after a while, she decided it was just too steep and hilly. She was tired. It was late in the day. So she was like, I'm going to head back to where I had camped the night before because it was a good place, and I'll get an early start in the morning. So while she was camping that night, she met a family. They had a pickup truck, and she said, "Yeah, my next stop is hopefully to make it to Nogales, Arizona," which is south. And they said, "Well, we have this pickup truck. We're happy to give you a ride as far as we're going, which is just to El Centro, California, about 100 miles east. So it doesn't take her quite to Arizona, but sure." She was like, "Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you." So they drive her. They go the 100 miles east towards Arizona. Now, from this new location that she's at in El Centro, Nogales is still about 300 miles from where she is, but she was grateful for that initial lift. The family left her at a gas station in El Centro. Now, the next part of her timeline, like the next week of her timeline, it's a little murky. So, to the best of, again, there's not a ton of coverage on this story. So, to the best of what I could piece together, between October 7th and October 14th, she covered a lot of ground. She passed through Wilcox, Arizona. She was closing the distance to her next major stop. At some point, she decided to take a bus to help bridge that gap. So she didn't ride this entire way. One night during this stretch, she's going from California and she's trying to make her way east. Nogales was not her final destination by any means. She was trying to make it further east than Arizona, which she did. One night during this stretch of travel from California towards, let's say, New Mexico, Texas, she found herself needing somewhere to sleep. And she went to a church and she asked if she could lay out her sleeping bag, if she could just kind of like rest inside, just a quiet place to sleep. She wouldn't cause any trouble. Simple request. The response she got, it was a yes, but it made her feel unwelcome the way that they answered her. So she later wrote in her journal that the reaction of the pastor at the church that she asked, it left her feeling uneasy, like they had only done it out of obligation, not compassion. At some point along here, she also took a bus from Phoenix to Tucson, and then she began making her way towards New Mexico. So she ends up in Lordsburg, New Mexico, where she gets another flat tire. Luckily, a passing truck driver noticed her, offered her a ride to Deming, which is about 60 miles east of Lordsburg, and she was able to get her flat tire fixed again here. There is a noticeable gap in her journal entries during this time, like the 7th through the 14th. That could be because she, was busy traveling and she was just exhausted at night and didn't have time to journal, or she was like uncertain of what she's doing. Where's this trip taking her? But she did back up her pen on October 14th. And this is what she said. October 14th, 1991. A lot has happened, and I finally decided to get caught up. October 8th, I wound up at a Methodist church where a kind elderly couple agreed to put me up for the night. It was very generous of them, but it felt like they were doing it because they felt obligated rather than out of Christian love. I really haven't had good feelings about the churches here, and it makes me wonder about the state of Christianity in this country. Jesus plainly states that we should love and help those in need, no matter how dirty or strange. So this entry is pretty, it says a lot. Her tone is a little different. She doesn't sound as hopeful. She's alone. She's doing her best. She's kind of leaning into her faith, and she still felt somewhat like a burden. But Jennifer, being who she was, this did not shake her resolve. It weighed on her a little bit, but it did not defeat her. She was not discouraged. She still tried to find some hope that things would maybe turn around for her in Deming or at wherever her next stop was. And she wasn't wrong. Things did turn around a little bit for her in Deming, New Mexico. That Wednesday, October 16th, she went to an evening church service in Deming, and the pastor, Robert Summers, and his wife, Loretta, welcomed her with open arms. It was the kind of welcome that she had been looking for. They offered her a hot shower, a warm bed to sleep in, and they even took her to breakfast the next morning. Jennifer told them that she had once again decided to change her plan, and this time she was going to head north, which is a big change. Remember, she was going to head like 2,000 miles south through Mexico, and now she's going to head north. Where? North, you ask? Well, she wanted to surprise her best friend, Michelle, who had started school in Minnesota at Concordia University, where Jennifer was going to go. So the Summers, Loretta and Robert Summers, walked her to a Shell gas station where she was going to kind of like stock up on some things, give her mom a call from the payphone, and then head on her way. And so she did call her mom from the payphone at 7:52 a.m. She told her mom she was headed north. She wants to surprise Michelle. She said, "Mom, please don't say anything to Michelle if you talk to her. I want to see the look on her face. It will be priceless." Lynn was like, "This is a long way." and you're going to Minnesota and it's October. So can I buy you a bus ticket? And Jennifer's like, no, I'm not ready to like just bus it all the way up there. She said, I still have a few $100s left and I really want to keep biking for now. She talked to her mom about possibly selling her poetry at craft fairs along the way. She also talked about maybe she would go to college after this. Maybe she would take art classes and writing classes in the spring. And they talked about her being home for Christmas. Her mom was really excited at the thought of her being home for Christmas because they didn't think that she would be if she had been traveling through Mexico still. She ended the call by telling her mom, I'll call you later tonight or tomorrow morning. I love you, Mom. And now, from when she left, this was what, the 16th that she's calling her mom. So she left on October 1st. She's called her mom, I believe, 12 times. So almost every single day. She's stayed in contact. She's stayed in communication. She's updated her mom, like, well, now I'm not going to Mexico. Now I'm going to go to New Mexico, and, kept her informed along the way. Before we continue, let's just talk about this like New Mexico to Minnesota trip, by the way. Like I just said, it's October. It's going to be cold. And that's like 1,500 miles. Now, granted, I understand that she could hop on a bus. She could hitchhike. It doesn't mean she's going to be on her bike the entire time, but all that she had, and I got this from one of the very few articles, she planned, this is a direct quote, by the way, from this article, she planned to subsist on fruit rolls, sunflower seeds, beef and cheese sticks, and peanut butter snack crackers. She was equipped this time with a bike repair kit, a red Swiss Army pocket knife, a pair of flashlights, lantern candles, and enamel camping cups. She would continue to take pictures along the way with her 35mm Miranda camera and purify her water whenever possible. When her mind turned quiet and clear, she would allot time to journaling or reading from a book that her mother had sent her off with, To My Daughter with Love, on the important things in life. Nighttime would be reserved for dreaming of all the things that she expected out of life, the things she needed to do, and the places she imagined she ought to go. That was from a great article that I found. So, big trip. But okay, this is her plan. So she had promised to call her mom later that day or the next day to update her mom on her route. But she never did. And when October 19th came around, which was her mom's birthday, no call. And that worried her mom. She knew something was wrong. So it had now been they talked on the 16th, not the 17th, not the 18th, and not the 19th. Lynn is now worried. So she reported Jennifer missing to the Missoula police in Montana, who contacted the New Mexico authorities. And the local police in Deming, they didn't really care. They said she's probably just still biking. Maybe there's been no payphones around. I remember, we're in 1991, so the constant communication that we have now was obviously not the norm. But again, Jennifer had been calling her mom almost every single day. So 3 days with no word, especially on her mom's birthday, especially considering Jennifer said, I'll call you later tonight or tomorrow morning, it was cause for concern. Deming police didn't seem to agree. They said she'd either just kept biking and hadn't come across a payphone, or maybe she decided to like run away. Maybe she didn't want to be in touch with her parents. She was 18. They said she'll show up. But Lynn, call it a mother's instinct. She knew better. She had a very bad feeling that time on the 16th may have been the last time that she ever talked to her daughter. So her and Jennifer's stepdad, Jim, decided to fly to New Mexico and begin investigating on their own. They plastered the town with flyers. They searched every back road they could find, but no sign of Jennifer. The final person that was thought to have seen Jennifer was a guy by the name of Jesus Chewy Vasquez. He went by the name Chewy. He was the Shell station attendant who'd been working the morning that Jennifer had used the payphone, bought some snacks. According to the statement that he made to the New Mexico police, he was 21. He was also the son of the gas station owner, Henry Vasquez. He said, well, I think Jennifer entered the gas station around 10:30, maybe 10. He said, yeah, we chit-chatted for a bit about her bicycle. It was just like a regular touring bike. I'm pretty sure it was white. He said that Jennifer was wearing hiking boots and wool socks. He did notice that, which seems like a peculiar, like a minor thing to notice, kind of. He said, I think she mentioned something about coming from Mexicali and that maybe she was going to get a map from a nearby travel agency. He said about 5 to 10 minutes after she went in the bathroom, she came out, she made a purchase, and then she left the gas station. She was walking next to her bike heading east, is what he said. But the payphone call to her mom was definitely happened at 7:52. It was 14 minutes long, happened at 7:52. It is documented. So why would he say that she came in 2 hours after that at 10 o'clock? And why would she need a map? Like, why would she be going to the travel agency for a map? She already had a map. Had she had a map. She knew where she was going. She didn't need another map. Plus, Chewy changed his story quite a few times. First, he said Jennifer mentioned something about Mexicali. Then he said, oh, maybe she's heading to Mexico, which made no sense because she had made it very clear to everyone that had spoken to her she would not be going to Mexico. She was going to Minnesota. And then he finally, another time, said, well, yeah, maybe she did mention Minnesota, but I'm not sure. Witnesses that came forward said that they saw Chewy with a girl matching Jennifer's description on that day. One witness said that they saw a woman locked in a shed on his family's property. And then there was the bracelet. Chewy's ex-girlfriend came forward and told police that Chewy had started wearing a leather friendship bracelet, one just like the one that Jennifer was known to wear every single day. And when she asked him about it, he took it off and stopped wearing it, which is very suspicious. Never went anywhere, though, with Chewy. Nothing came of this. Nearly a year later, on September 4th, 1992, a couple from Farmington, New Mexico, Bill and Sarah Sowers, were scouting for dove hunting spots along State Road 26 near Hatch, New Mexico. They pulled off on a dusty back road near the Las Uvas Valley Dairy, and something caught their eye under a mesquite tree only about 50 feet-ish off the highway. It was a pile of things, and it was really weird. It caught their eye because it was strangely neat and like deliberate, like someone was coming back for this. There were 2 duffel bags, a blue and gray tent, a bicycle helmet, and a stack of journals stacked very neatly. And so at first when they saw it, they were like, well, maybe like teenagers were out here partying and they just left it behind. But they quickly dismissed that because something about how these items were arranged felt really intentional. Like someone had stashed them here and was absolutely coming back for them. And then around this pile of items that were like very intentionally organized, there were baby food jars with baby food in them and a lot of cigarette butts. Well, Jennifer didn't smoke and she definitely wasn't eating baby food. So this was weird. Inside the duffel bags were Jennifer's 2 Bibles, one in English, one in Spanish, and her wallet with her Montana driver's license. They also came across her handwritten journals, and the entries stopped, right around when she supposedly vanished, around October 16th, 17th, 1991. So remember, this was a year prior. Nothing happened for a year. No one was charged. There was no official suspects. No one found anything on Jennifer. She was just gone. She just vanished. And then this couple finds these items a year later. Things that were very clearly missing from this site was, Jennifer. Her bicycle was gone. Her sleeping bag was gone. And her leather bracelet that she always wore. We can assume that she maybe was still wearing it, but that also was not found here. So this couple, they reported the discovery. The police were kind of like, okay. No, whoa, okay, let us come out and, we'll meet you there. Tell us exactly where it is. Like they seemed largely uninterested. But the couple was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. Like, we've reported it. So what else are we supposed to do? So they went about their life. And then, a few days later, they were troubled by this still. So they returned to the same spot where they found the stuff. And lo and behold, it was all still there, untouched. The police had never come. So they were like, what the hell is going on here? All right, fine. So we'll take it then. So they gathered everything, they took it home. And since the police seemed so uninterested, they managed to find and contact Jennifer's parents. And then also either them or Jennifer's parents reached out to the police to be like, what the fuck is going, like, why have you not investigated this? Our daughter's been missing for a year and here are her things. This is important evidence. Shockingly, none of these items were ever taken into evidence, were never tested by the crime lab. Nothing. Don't know where they are today. Maybe Jennifer's parents still have them, but I guarantee they offered, here, take them, test them. And actually, now that I'm saying that, I believe they did, and they handed them over. There's no record of that. There's no record of these items whatsoever. So another thing, and I should have looked this up. I'm going to right now, actually. Hold on. Okay. So remember, she was in that gas station. The Shell gas station was in Deming, New Mexico. And these items, all of her things, minus her bike, her sleeping bag, and her, were found in Hatch, New Mexico, which is about 48 miles away from Deming. You can take State Route 26, and it offers a direct connection between the two towns through the Chihuahuan Desert. So about 48 miles. So initially, like the fact that her things were found 48 miles away in Hatch, New Mexico, seemed kind of random. But once police actually got involved and started talking to people and interviewing witnesses, they ended up talking to Pastor Summers and his wife, Loretta. And they said, yes, Jennifer talked to us about taking the route through Hatch. And we told her not to because it's pretty remote and it's not a well-traveled, you have to go right through the desert. And so it's not a great place. Don't do it. It's potentially dangerous. And she seemed to say, okay, good advice. Thank you. I won't. Yet this is where her things turned up. So, I mean, certainly it's possible that she just didn't listen to them and decided to go that way. But who knows? There were some other witnesses that came forward. A witness came forward saying that on October 17th, 1991, they saw a 1953 Chevy truck reverse course. So they were going one way. They turned around near the Hatch airport and decided to head back towards where a girl was riding her bike. This girl matched Jennifer's description, apparently. Another witness, that never went anywhere. Another witness, an employee from a Quick Pick store in Hatch, said, oh, I saw that girl. I saw Jennifer with two men. One stayed beside her here at the gas station, and another one was over by the payphone. They apparently recognized one of these men. They said, I think it's a guy named Henry Apodaca, who's a local farm worker. So he was named a person of interest in this case because other witnesses said, oh, I heard Henry bragging that he abducted Jennifer. But it never went anywhere. They questioned him. It never went anywhere. And he died in 2011. And now the location where her belongings were found under that mesquite tree, it's now blocked off by a fence, by a gate. It's private property. And there's a sign that says private property, private hunting preserve. So no one can get onto it without permission. So considering that those items were not entered into evidence, were not tested by the crime lab. And again, this is 1991. So certainly it's understood that the technology, DNA, that type of thing isn't happening necessarily, but fingerprints could have been happening. I mean, I believe they were testing hair back then. They could have scoured the area, tested these items for fingerprints, and at the very least, put them into evidence so that now they could be tested for DNA. But that never happened. So I guess it's not a huge shock that the area also was not I can't find the word, so I'm going to say crime scened. It wasn't analyzed. That's not the right word, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, so what about Chewy? Because he was the biggest person of interest. So in 1992, law enforcement documents reported, quote, several witnesses and sources have identified Jesus Chewy Vasquez as the individual responsible for Jennifer's abduction and death. That's all that I have. Like, I don't know what's that based on. No idea. I just have that statement from law enforcement documents. But also, Chewy was never charged. So he was briefly questioned again in 1992. Said the same thing he said previously, that, she was wearing hiking boots and wool socks. He thought he remembered her walking east with her bicycle. And he said the only additional thing he said is he thought she might be going to the travel agency. And he wouldn't say anything else. He said he didn't know anything else. He refused to say more. Now, in 1994, he was arrested during a joint agency drug sting after he sold narcotics to an undercover officer. He had either overdosed at that point or attempted suicide, something. I don't know how those two things can be. I guess the overdose could have been attempted suicide is what is meant by that. And so at this point, like, he's arrested, he overdosed, and so he's in some type of custody, and he still is saying, I don't know anything. They're questioning him now again about Jennifer because there's been no other leads. He's still saying, I don't know anything. Flash forward a lot of years. On March 1st, 2010, so nothing happened between 1994 and 2010, on the police end at least. A spokesperson from the New Mexico State Police announced that the Luna County DA's office was anticipating that it would bring charges up on a suspect in Jennifer's case. Now, one may assume that this would be Chewy. But before they could do that, in October of 2011, Chewy Vasquez, he was 41 years old at the time, got into a physical altercation with his brother, Frank. He beat Frank to death. Although that's not how the court saw it. Frank collapsed during the fight and died. And the official cause of death, they actually linked to a heart condition that he had from doing years and years of drug use. So they're saying his heart gave out, that Chewy did not actually beat him to death. But Chewy ended up pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter, and he served 4 years in prison, eventually returning to Deming, where he remains the primary suspect in Jennifer's case, though he is still walking free. To this day, Jennifer's name still appears on the New Mexico Cold Case Homicide Unit's official list. Her bike has never been found. It was a white Fuji Sundance with green lettering, front and rear black saddlebags, had her aunt's name engraved on it, and the serial number F9101771 was engraved on the frame. Jennifer herself has never been found. And her mom, Lynn, has never stopped searching. Lynn, over the years, took detailed notes. She revisited witness statements, and she has continued to try and keep pressure on investigators who, at times, seemed all too ready to let this case become a very, very, very icy cold case, which at this point, it has. For years, she ran Jennifer's missing posters in the New Mexico newspapers every birthday, every Christmas, several times a year. Her mom also received a number of tips over the year from people claiming to have seen Jennifer in just odd locations. Some people said they saw her on a pier in San Francisco. Other people said they saw her in a hippie commune outside of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Some people, more than one apparently, suggested that she was leading a life of anonymity in New Mexico and that she didn't want to be found. None of these tips, if you can call them that, ever panned out or proved to have any truth to them. And as you can only imagine, it has been excruciating for Jennifer's family. One year, her mother found a line in one of Jennifer's journals that said, "Faith is not faith until it is all you're holding on to," which is a great quote. Her mom, Lynn, says, quote, "Jennifer is daily on my mind, but come April and October, my mind is consumed with thoughts as to what happened to my sweet, beautiful 18-year-old daughter. And it haunts me that no one has been able to find her. Why has the person who took Jennifer away from her family in Montana not been caught yet? Why do they get to go on living as if nothing happened? I can't help but wonder who else this person has hurt in their lifetime." Which I've read that a few times, and it's just so heartbreaking because nothing like, I can't imagine this. I can't empathize with this because nothing like this has ever happened to me. Thank goodness. But if I spend too long trying to imagine losing my sister, my mom, Mark, I mean, and for decades, having no idea what happened to them, where they went, I it I don't know how you survive this, to be honest. I mean, Jennifer's mom and family must be just incredibly strong people, because this, I think that would break me for sure. Jennifer would be 52 years old today. When she vanished, she was 5'5", 120 to 125 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes, and a gap between her front teeth. She was last seen wearing a blue bum, B-U-M, sweatshirt, denim shorts, brown hiking boots, and a Rice Krispies watch with snap, crackle, and pop on the watch face. She wore brown framed glasses, a cross necklace, a silver ring that read "Love Jesus," and a leather friendship bracelet, if we can assume that Chewy didn't take it from her. Her bike, her sleeping bag, and her body are all still missing. Before we wrap up this on Jennifer, I did a case not too long ago, I believe, the Tara Calico case. I don't know if you recall that. She went for a bike ride she disappeared in September 1988 from Belen, New Mexico. So that's about 200 miles away from Deming. But both victims were in their late, Jennifer was 18, Tara was 19. They both disappeared in the fall. They were both riding mountain bikes along highways before they vanished. And the biggest similarity and kind of weird thing is that there was a 1953 pickup truck seen driving behind both of these girls. So if you remember in the Tara Calico case, that I believe it was a Ford pickup with two men was seen driving near her or following her. And yeah, both cases, it was a Ford with a homemade shell. Oh no, in Tara's case, it was a Ford with a homemade shell. In Jennifer's case, it was supposedly a Chevy. Again, these are coming from witness statements, so they both could have been a Ford. They both could have been a Chevy. They could have been different makes of truck, but they were very similar in appearance. So if one witness got it wrong, and they were both Fords with homemade shells, 1953s, that is a very specific truck to see driving on a highway by a girl riding a bicycle who ended up missing. So just food for thought. If you know anything at all about what might have happened to Jennifer Pentilla, please contact the New Mexico Cold Case Homicide Unit. I have an email for an agent there, and there's a reward of up to $1,000 for any information that might help solve her case, because someone has to know something, right? It was a long time ago, but not so long ago that anyone who was involved or who may have witnessed something would be dead. Certainly people who were involved in this could and likely are still alive, because even after all of this time, Jennifer and her family most certainly deserve answers. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. I know that sometimes these missing person cases are unpopular because there is no closure, but I kind of feel like, yeah, it sucks that there's no closure for me or for you guys as like listening to entertainment. it really sucks that there's no closure for the families. And if, like I said, I only saw 2 podcast episodes on this. So if in any possible way sharing this story could help, which, I'm not hugely hopeful because we're not a huge podcast, but maybe someone will hear this and another bigger podcast will pick this up and someone will know something. Who knows? Because this is just, it was heartbreaking, what a kind soul. She was out in the world trying to help people. And, presumably something awful happened to her. So just heartbreaking. Thank you guys for listening. And that's it for today's episode. Our hearts go out to my heart and prayers and thoughts goes out to Jennifer's family and friends. I've added this one to the cold case list in case anything ever comes up about it. We will circle back to this if more information ever comes out. I did see that some woman at a news station in New Mexico has started like a cold case thing on the nightly news, and she's traveling around looking into these cases, and this is one of them. So you never know. Fingers are crossed. If you are enjoying Death by Southwest, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, come find us on social media. And as always, stay safe and come back next week for more true crime here on Death by Southwest. Thank you guys for listening. Love you so much. And stay tuned for true crime headlines, which I will have out this week for you. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.
Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, "Good night and good luck."